previously on Balls.
All right, so we're going to be chatting to James Evans
yeah.
now, the ASA president. We spoke to Gideon Sam. What was the crux of that conversation? Came out that they would need to look into Athletics South Africa. What was Gideon basically saying? That they would have to look into it, and that some people were getting paid, but athletes weren't getting money.
It was for the Soweto Marathon. I think that they paid the guys.
Well, the
didn't
athletes
get
were
their payment.
mentioning that they weren't getting paid, but
Yeah.
yet there were payments going to people in charge, and they would have to look into it. But now, haven't they done a big deal with SABC TV?
I don't know.
ASA? That's what I read the other day. That they now have done this big deal with SABC to televise athletics, and it's a big broadcast deal. Let's find out. We'll speak to James and just find out what's the basic thing with him.
Well, Dan, I think they're calling for him. He's in.
Hello.
Hi there. We're looking for James, please.
Yes, speaking.
Is that James Evans?
Yes.
Hello,
Hi, James. Hi, it's Balls Visual Radio. How are you doing?
Okay, yourself.
All right. Thanks. It's John, Simon, Kanox, and Darren here. Thanks for your time this afternoon, having a chance to have a chat to us. We've just been obviously looking at basically what allegations have been made. That basically the rest of the board want to have you impeached. One of the
I wouldn't say
criteria.
the rest of the board.
Well, who does want you impeached then?
Well, some of them. No, I wouldn't say the whole board.
All right, but I mean, how much of the board do and how many don't? I mean, how much support do you have on the board? How many people on the board in total?
There's 11.
11. And so basically it's a 50-50 split, half do and half don't.
Just a bit more than it's not exactly 50-50, but yeah, it's close to that. Yeah.
All right. I mean, we've chatted about this over the last couple of weeks, and I mean, the bottom line, it appeared that there was just very little money. Athletes not getting paid for certain things they were expecting money for. Allegations that management was still paying themselves and demanding that they get money for certain for their role and for running Athletics South Africa. And one of the allegations is that obviously that money from Athletics South Africa you were paying yourself. Your comments on that?
It's impossible because we have a system. We bank with Nedbank, and they use tokens to approve payments.
Yeah.
And at least two people have to approve a payment.
Yeah.
And someone else has to load it. So I've obviously cracked the Nedbank system that I can actually load and pay myself. There is a board remuneration policy which was adopted in 2011. There was actually a previous one in Lenachoni's days, but that was revised in 2011. So it's always been in place.
Yeah.
And Hendrik Kamala and all those boys came out with all the allegations they want, but they also received payments in terms of board remuneration policy.
But I mean, surely
Which
there.
is not an, yeah.
Yeah, sorry to interrupt. I just want to know, but surely there would be a paper trail to be able to verify yes there was or no there wasn't. I mean, if there are payments made, people that are making the allegations and people that are defending these allegations and saying that they're rubbish, there would be a paper trail either way. Seeing as if it's all going through Nedbank, where you'd be able to verify yes or no.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, that's the point. Is that it's easy to sit and make wild allegations, but when they've been confronted with board minutes to say, "But you actually approved this policy," then they duck and dive and they deny it. I mean, one of the allegations was made is that Maklati Kikabeli allegedly said something in a meeting. She wasn't even at the meeting. The board minutes confirmed that. So, these are just wild allegations that have been made that people can't back up because there's nothing to back up.
What do you think the basis is for these allegations?
I think it's people are power hungry because we've had a number of elections in the last since 2009. There was elections in September 2010, then again in June 2011, and then again last year. And every single time those guys have lost. So the only way they can now do it is by coming and using these kinds of tactics. So if it's a straight ballot box they can't win, so obviously they have to find something else.
Yeah, but I mean, with all the allegations flying around, and as you say, there are meetings, minutes are taken at these meetings, which you've said. Why would people make these allegations if there's distinct proof on paper, like you say, someone made an allegation about something that happened in a meeting and wasn't even there. Why would they make wild allegations if this stuff? I mean, surely there must be processes in place internally for ASA to sort this out before it becomes a sort of public mudslinging fest.
Well, they actually are, and that's the biggest, the concerning point of this whole thing is that we had a board meeting in January, end of January. Now, Enda Krumalo wasn't there. His father had died, so he was at the funeral, but the point is he wasn't there. He's come back and he's now gone on his own campaign. But the point is a lot of decisions were made at that board meeting about processes going forward. And one of the things is we had a company secretary who has subsequently resigned because he says he can't work with people that behave like this. But he gave them a 45-minute lecture on behavior as board members and their obligations as board members. And one of the questions that was put to everyone was, do they need training as board members? Because, if you're not experienced in running a company, and this is a company, I mean, this is not a little club or something like
Yeah.
this. It's a national federation that's got a several million rand turnover. It's not a little thing. And the question he said to them is that, do you guys have the experience? Because it seems to him they don't. And they admitted that they didn't. So the whole idea was that they were going to get training as board members on how to handle these issues. Instead of doing that, they went off and started this whole process, running off to SASCOC without having any mandate to do so, that sort of thing. So it's disturbing that people are involved in the sport that actually admitted they don't have the experience of this level of complexity of running an organization, and yet they're going and doing it. Our Constitution definitely makes provision for if somebody has done something wrong. These guys have just ignored that completely.
What is the status at the moment with ASA financially? We read the other day there's some deal that's been done with the SABC, if I'm not mistaken, or a TV deal that's been done now for which is quite lucrative. But I mean, financially, what is the situation? And also, is there enough money to pay everyone that's supposed to be paid, or only some people getting paid? And is it members of board members and management who are doing the work and that they feel deserve to get paid and should be getting paid, even though some aren't? Can you sort of clarify that for us?
The position right now, and it's been a position since December, and we actually approached the ministry and we also approached SASCOC and said, look, we have a cash flow issue. It's been a cash flow problem, and it's gone back to August last year. We had a major cash flow problem. And I'm not going to dwell in the past, but there were steps taken last August. But we've been sitting with a cash flow problem. The deal we've concluded will tide us over, and it's the nature of the sport of athletics. It's a big enough sport that it actually will survive. It just needs to be managed properly, and the cash flow has not been managed. We've been let down quite badly by people we employ that are supposed to advise us on these things. I suddenly found out in August that we didn't have any cash in the bank. It was the nicest surprise I ever got. We suddenly we can't send teams away, we can't do this, we can't pay salaries, and we're like, why didn't you warn me? So we internally we got problems with that. But once we get the cash in from this deal, and then we're putting steps in the press in place at the moment to get that sorted out. Once we get cash flowing back into the organisation, we've got the commitments going forward that we actually find we'll be able to pay. The definite, there's people that claim we owe the money. I mean, you should see the people that come out the woodwork when there's money around the sports federation. But the ones that we definitely own, my priority, and guys can have a meeting next week if they want. They mustn't become a waste of money that we've actually brought in to pay the athletes their prize money. We still owe guys from the West African and champs from last year. For some unknown reason, there's still money outstanding from the track and field season. For some reason, I don't know why they weren't paid last year. And then some of the outstanding Toyota Marathon prize money. So those things are priority to pay them. And then we have suppliers that we've actually been keeping on a thread for quite a long time. But those are all going to get, we have enough to meet those commitments. Well, once the cash comes in.
Yeah. One of the things that surprises me, though, when you say, suddenly you find out that there's no cash in the bank, as the president, I mean, surely this should have been something that should have been brought to your attention a lot earlier, where
it should have.
Where it was running out, and we're facing a problem where when we get to this point, we will have no cash. How is it that that's never been brought to your attention leading up to this, the basic problem of suddenly we've got no money?
Well, it's one of the, I mean, you'll recall we did take disciplinary steps last year in August, and it was one of the issues. that came up. It was the management of and particularly the management of the cash flow. It doesn't help having, and yeah, I mean, look, one of the things I need to also point out is that we've got a house in Houghton worth 8.5 million rands. One of the proposals put on the table last year was to sell the house, move to a place that's more affordable, and use the cash for the balance of the cash to pay off our debts, and then we can move on and go forward. That was vetoed by the same people that are trying to get rid of me now. I just don't understand the motivation of when we're athletes without money, but we want to keep a house in Houghton. I just don't know what the affinity is to Houghton.
That's clearly your head office, right?
Yeah, that's right. And we had offers to go elsewhere that actually would have cost us nothing or close to nothing. And also, 8.5 million rand house it's a big house. We're not using the full house to its full potential. There's a lot of cheaper places in Pretoria and Joburg that we could have moved to. That you can buy a house for 1.5 million in Pretoria and Joburg in some places. It'll be a decent house.
Yeah, that
so
does.
A lot of the problem with it is that we've never really been completely. Our balance sheet may have said we're fine. The cash flow has just been shockingly managed. And one of the things we're trying to put in place, but with quite a bit of resistance being met, is proper procedures that guys cannot make commitments until there's a budget in place to do it. One of the problems I've had is I've had to rely on the guys in Joburg to do the job, and we've had people. I mean, Hendrik Ramal ran the office for a year. He's going to have to answer for some of the decisions taken then that are affecting us now.
So, I mean, basically, this what you're saying sounds like it's got nothing to do with the interest of athletics, but it's more a personality issue where there's some people that don't want you there, and these are why these accusations and allegations are flying around. So half the board, or as you say, just less than half the board want you there, and just a little bit over the other half of the board don't want you there, and it's become a bit of a personality mudslinging thing at the moment.
I think it goes beyond personality. I think it's, as I said in the beginning, it's people that are unhappy because they, the election result didn't go the way they wanted.
So it's a power struggle.
Why anyone actually? I mean, I keep looking at myself and thinking I'm mad. The only difference is I actually have been in a situation like this with other organizations and managed to get them out of the trouble. But why anyone would come into an organization that's borderline solvent just because they want to be the chief is beyond me, because they'll probably be the chief and be the captain of a sinking ship. Because unless whoever these guys want to take over, unless they've got massive expertise or a huge amount of cash in their pocket, I don't know why anyone wanted to do it. I mean, I don't know why I'm doing it. To be perfectly honest.
I was thinking the same thing. Is why are you still there if this is what's going on? I mean, why do you persevere? I mean, for what reason?
The sport. I was involved with Western Athletics for years, but I was president of the province for 5 years, and when I started, we were in deep financial trouble. We had 3,000 rand in the bank at one stage, and we owed about 110,000 rand. And all we did is actually just tighten things up and said, if you owe us money, pay us, and we're not going to go along and spend money just for the fun of it. And in 5 years later, the organization, I mean, the guys running it now will testify to it, actually in a pretty sound financial position, with the ability to actually start running development programs of their own.
Yeah.
So it's a great sport. It can easily be turned around if everyone just puts their noses to the wheel and actually goes for it. We had pretty legal problems in the Western Province, but at the end of the day, most of the guys were club guys that actually ran.
The interest of athletics was paramount.
Yeah, well, I wouldn't say paramount all the time, but ultimately you could actually sit down in base shades and say, guys, come on, we need to make this work. At the national level, I'm not sure that all the guys actually are that involved with the sport that they're actually really interested, or whether they just think it's a free trip overseas all the time.
But that to me is shocking, because effectively athletics is still a big enough sport, and I mean, granted, there's still so much that could be done, and there's so much talent that's probably out there. When you go down to the actual bottom line of why you guys are there, it's basically to provide the infrastructure, the structure, and the support for our athletes in this country. And we know what performance has been like at the Olympic Games and stuff. We could do a whole lot better. But again, to be able to get to a point where Athletics South Africa can basically support the amount of talent that is out there, and get them to a point where we can start, making athletics what should be one of our primary sports in this country, one of the sports that's a shining light like cricket is at the moment. It's not going to happen because sponsors who would probably be able to get you guys out of this financial mess, and you can't say they're not sponsors around who would want to get involved in athletics, but they're probably all looking at this going, I don't want to touch it because I don't know what's going on there, and it just doesn't sound like a good place to put my money. So this whole issue being a public one is certainly must be damaging potential sponsorships and further revenue coming into Athletics South Africa.
Sure. No, absolutely. There's some deals that I could have probably pulled off now for this coming season, which which is wasting my time. I walk into a sponsor's office, they're going to laugh at me and say you're joking. But what you also said is 100% right in terms of the product we've got. And if you want to analyze how the strength of the product, because you remember in terms of pure participation numbers, I don't think any sport comes close to it.
Yeah.
If you think of every road race that's run every day, every schools meeting, I would maybe being a bit arrogant on this, but probably about between 1.5 and 2.5 million people do athletics every year. Just in terms of the people that run road races and do schools athletics, and from cross country to 100 kilometers to everything, and that's all the sport of athletics. SABC would never have entered into the contract they've entered into us now if they didn't see potential in the product. And I mean, there's two things. One, they've been a great supporter of athletics over the years, but they're also not stupid. They can't waste money. So they've actually looked at this and said, hold on, we can justify to the Parliament that we've spent this money on buying the broadcast rights. They're not going to do it just because they want to be nice to us. They're doing it because they see a potential product.
Yeah.
And once we can start the other nonsense, sponsors will... Cricket as well. Cricket gets a lot of coverage, but when last did you go to a provincial cricket match and see people watching the game on the stands?
Yeah.
You go to most athletics meetings. There's a far bigger crowd goes to watch athletics than goes to watch cricket. Yeah, cricket can put in the money and athletics can't.
Who did the deal with SABC? By the way, I mean who tied that up?
It was a combination of a few of us, but it actually started about 2 years ago. The initial contract ended in March last year. So we got some guys, we got a broadcast commission, and they dealt with it, but otherwise it was myself and the head of SABC Sport that did a lot of the negotiations.
And I mean, did they ask a lot of questions about? Did they ask a lot of questions about what was going on? Did they, did you have to explain? And because clearly, as I say, if you speak to most sponsors and there's this kind of standoff going on, they're going to be reluctant to get involved. So I'm curious to find out what made them tip over and say, yes, we want to be involved, we want to carry on, we want to put our money into this, we want to show what's going on. They're a big organisation. They got the ears to the ground. They knew a lot of what was going on. So they didn't go in blind. They're not naively going in and saying, we're sure this will all be fine. So they've they definitely had their ears to the ground, and as I say, they've been involved in the sport for years. So it's not something that they coming in blind onto. Yeah. Simon, last one?
Yeah, I just want to know how you'd like to see this whole thing resolved.
It's one, we can take a baseball bat and bash each other, but that's actually not going to get anyone anywhere.
Yeah.
The right way that this has been done would be get everyone in a room and talk things through. In the old days, in the 90s, you would have got Steve Cherry calling everyone in and bashing their heads together and say, listen, this has got to work. In the absence of anyone doing that, I think we're going to have to try and find a way to mediate a solution. My personal view is that the easiest way to deal with this thing is to get a commission of inquiry which we appoint and say, look at all these allegations, stop running this stuff and sending out, those guys have been sending out communications to the provinces behind my back in the last 2 weeks now, and it's just helping nobody. I've got my own allegations against all of them that they're going to have to face quite soon, and quite serious ones that could damage their reputational features in the sport. But the point is that we need to actually get that dealt with through proper procedures. In the meantime, we've got to clean up the sport and get the competition schedule going. We've got championships starting next month, and my focus, I quite honestly haven't paying much attention to this stuff at the moment because my main thing is let's get the broadcast rights deal done and let's try and get our championships sorted out. The sport's big enough. If we all get thrown out, the sport will carry on. So yeah.
Well, it will.
Doing it for the
It
power
will,
play, I
but
think they're going to lose out.
you would like to see either, if it's Sascock or even the Minister of Sport getting involved and going, right, well, if this is what's needed, let's do this. If there's a commission of inquiry, taking some kind of control to go, well, listen, if there are two camps here and one's fighting with the other one and there are hidden agendas and all kinds of things going on, then let's get the facts. As I say, there's a paper trail for all the allegations. There's nothing that's been alleged that you couldn't easily go to the bank or to meeting record, as you say, minutes of the meetings and go, well, this is what happened in the meeting. You weren't here or you were here and this is what was said. It should be a very simple thing to solve as far as allegations goes. Get those out the way and then move forward. As Simon was asking, what is the way forward to resolve this? So there must be a way where we can get everyone to work together in the interest of what is potentially one of our, one of our top 3-4 sports.
No, I think number one. Well, look, the best way to deal with athletics guys have to deal with it. One of the biggest problems that happened in 2009 with when Leonard was and his board were kicked out is it was done by non-athletics people, and we're still feeling the effects of it now. The best way to do this is athletics guys must sit and point their own people. I think the Ministry of Sascock getting involved will just muddy the waters. And the athletics guys must sit and sort their own problems out. But I think the correct way is that we get somebody to come and look at all allegations before they get thrown around. Because it's all very well to throw mud at people. I'm a lawyer and I know perfectly well that you can throw tons of mud at somebody, but if none of it is worth anything, it's all going to get washed away. So rather come with one valid case and just try and throw as many and hope that something sticks, because it doesn't stick.
But James, then who do you get involved? Because there's got to be somebody independent. You can't select somebody because the other side are going to go, but we don't want them because you chose them. So how do you get to a point where you get somebody who's got athletics interests at heart to come as a completely independent entity into this and go, right, let me have a look at the whole scenario and make my summation from there. Let's come to a decision on what's been going on, what allegations are true, what aren't, what needs to be sorted out, and let's move forward. How do you get to an independent person?
Look, it's one thing it's lacking in South African sport. The Western Cape, for example, has got a sports arbitration forum. The wheels there grind slower than even our magistrate courts grind, but at least it's there, that it can resolve disputes. So it's something that is lacking at a national level, that there should be an independent arbitration panel that can actually step in these things. But in the absence of that, look, the IWF, the CAA, they all have dispute resolution mechanisms. So if we can't deal with it ourselves, I think we need to get our international guys to come in and assist. They've done it in neighbouring countries. I don't know if you know, in Namibia they had a big fight standoff there before Frankie Fredericks was elected.
Yeah.
And the IWF actually sent somebody from Africa to the country and said, guys, this is how you're going to deal with it.
Yeah.
So it's probably one of those we're going to have to appeal to the international guys to come and help mediate it. The problem at the moment is that Sascock, I don't want to speak badly of them, but the thing is they were there in 2010. When they handed over, we still got a problem.
Yeah.
So if there's takeover again, the question is, well, where are we going to be in 2 years after that? It's a process that might have been needed at the time, but whether that is the appropriate mechanism, I'm not convinced.
Yeah.
The ministry can't actually intervene because then it's government interference in the sport. So they can mediate, but they can't do much beyond that.
Okay.
So if we can't get agreement amongst the guys, we're going to have to turn to our international colleagues and ask them to assist. And there are some pretty competent people nearby. Frankie Fredericks obviously is the president in Namibia.
All right, so there is a way. There is a little bit of light at the end of the tunnel then. Obviously, if you can't get it sorted out in your own boardroom with all of you together and just get rid of all the mudslinging and just move forward in the interest of athletics, then that's the next way to go. At least there is some way. There is an alternative, a way to go for you guys. We appreciate your time, James.
Thanks a lot, James.
Thanks very much for chatting to us this afternoon, casting some more light on what's going on.
Sure, no problem.
Cheers, man. Bye-bye.
Bye.
There we go. James Evans, the president of ASA, chatting to us about, and obviously it's only one side of the story, but that's in his view. And I mean, from basically what the allegations he's saying there are about payments and stuff like that, it should be very simple, paper trail.
Yeah.
Unless he's got access to the codes of the account and he's doing direct transfers. But even then, there's a paper trail.
There's a paper trail.
You,
back to him, yeah.
You can't just, it's not a cash company. So you can't just sort of put cash in the back of your pocket and go, cool, there it is. So, yeah.
Sounds messy.
It sounds very messy, but it's not something that can't be sorted out and can't be sorted out quite efficiently. And I think that probably the best way to go is get somebody independent from athletics. They want athletics to sort it out. They get somebody independent from athletics and get them in, sort it out, and move forward in the interests of South African athletics. Look at
This is Bulls Visual Radio. Darren, Simon, Kate, and John. Weekdays from 3 p.m. to 6 p.m. Central African Time. Bulls.co.za.